All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to another GameDev live stream. I'm joined today by Ashley Alicea, and we're going to be talking about Unity and GameDev as normal. If you caught the last stream, we did a little bit of coding there. That was really fun. But this time we're just going to hang out, chat about some things. Definitely going to talk about Ashley's experience in Unity and dive into all that. But before we do that, just want to welcome everyone to the chat. I see, again, some familiar faces here. 01, how's it going? Jose, nice to see you again, guys. Hey, your eyes are, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining us. As always, I have to do the whole YouTube thing, so be sure to smash that like button. Yeah, right? Smash that like button, subscribe, let the algorithm know that you're interested in this content. And also, we will be engaging with the chat from time to time, so if you have any questions for Ashley or just want to talk about some sort of topic in general, just be sure to drop that in the chat, and we'll try to get to that as well. So, hey, what's up, Jason? Look at that. The whole gang's here. All right. Without further ado, Ashley, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Do you mind saying something about yourself for the audience? So for those of the folks that don't know who you are.
Absolutely. So hi, my name is Ashley, and I am a games evangelist at Unity Technologies. And really what that means is I'm a professional Unity nerd. So it's
dream job.
Yes, it is. It is the best dream job ever. Basically, as an evangelist, I go to different, I want to say conferences, but now in this era of COVID, it's a little bit different, right? But it's I go to e-conferences, digital events, live streams like this one. And I go talk about Unity development and all the latest new Unity features, what's coming up and what's out that's really useful for developers, and really just get to share, what I'm excited about and what, and see what the community's doing and kind of like learn from them as well. And we all kind of take part in the kind of like Unity community together.
So if I have to complain about something related to Unity, I can just blow you up on Twitter, right?
Just all the tweets. Just I'll fix each one of them.
Why is Dot so hard to use? Cool. Hey, I see Elena's in the chat too. Well, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Speaking of conferences, by the way, and being a Unity evangelist, I broke out all my Unity swag. So I got my Unity water bottle. I got my Unity shirt. And I was going to throw on my Unity tube socks, but I couldn't find them. So it's funny when I got a couple years ago, I think I got all this at, Unite LA. I got like a care package, an evangelist care package, and it had the tube socks. And I was like, I was living in Miami at the time. So I was like, I have no use for these, but these are awesome.
I love the tube socks. I have like so many. I have to one of these days just wear all my Unity swag because I think I have everything except Unity pants, which now that's my next goal for swag, Unity pants. So
it's like you're sending emails to marketing. Can we get some pants?
Right now.
Do they have Unity masks? Because that'd be great.
They do.
Oh, man, I gotta get my hands on those.
Yep, we've had them for years, actually, because we have them for our Unite China events.
Nice.
So, yep.
You guys were prepared.
Prepared, always.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep.
So I'm guessing a lot of the conferences that were scheduled obviously are not happening. There was like a Live Connect conference recently, right? Like a couple months ago. It was like
there's been a couple of different conferences and events that we've hosted or either have attended separately. The one, we had a digital developer day recently, and we've had different kind of like webinars, like Unity's Create with Code series has been another place where you can find a lot of the evangelists participating with the community. And we've also been doing Unite Now. So Unite Now has been kind of our big online kind of conference initiative that's hosted on our YouTube channel. And that's where folks can go and see talks from not just evangelists like myself, but the developers behind the tools that they're using now. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like a new way to engage, and I feel like at a conference, the only conference I'd ever been to was Unite LA in 2018, and it was great, but I felt like I just couldn't get to everything. And I was like, I got to choose this session over that session. And, sometimes, the questions, it's kind of intimidating to go up like stand in front of everyone. Although I did do it and like ask a question in front of everyone. So it's interesting that, now that a lot of it's online, there are different opportunities, I should say, to engage. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it would work out at first because it was a big shift for a lot of us, right? But it's been so like literally heartwarming to be in these like digital conferences and still talk to everyone. And, folks are like, instead of asking those questions, right, going up to the mic, I have folks hitting me up on Twitter or, typing their questions in chat in the live stream. And like, I still feel the energy, which I think is really important because even now in this presentation or like when I'm like talking to a group of people, I'm still like alone, like in my apartment. Like my dog is here and my dog will like very actively stare at me and watch me. And honestly, he's the best audience I've had, I think. No, but it's, but I feel that like love and energy and excitement for game development. I think it's a really exciting time to be a game developer because we're all home. So what's one of the things we're working on? We're all working on our games, right? And so it's kind of a nice side effect of everything that's happening.
To be fair, I'm working on my like 200th prototype, but it will eventually become a game.
I'm in the same boat. I maybe have 3 prototypes in the works right now, but it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. On that note, something I was thinking about the other day is like, as a YouTuber, who creates Unity content, people always ask me like, hey, what games have you made? Or like, hey, I looked you up on Steam, I didn't see anything. And it's like, yeah, I haven't made any games. The projects that I've worked on are all under NDA and they're like for big companies and they're not really that cool anyway. But so it's like, when can you call yourself a game developer? And there's something that like many years ago when I got into running, I ran for like 2 or 3 years just on my own. Never really did any events like 5Ks or things like that. And I never considered myself a runner, And so I was looking online on some subreddit and I was like, well, how do I know when I've become a runner? And one of the answers was, do you run? It's like, yeah, well, then you're a runner. And so I think to some extent, it's the same with game development. I mean, if you develop games in some capacity, you're a game developer. I think it's safe to say.
I agree completely. And that's even something that I had to learn for myself because I would make games and such and like tinker around for fun. Like I used to be in zoology. Like I used to work in a completely different field but I always was a gamer. Right. My first game that I ever actually made was in PowerPoint in like 2006, I think. But I did it for fun and like because you could like link slides together, and so I made like a point and click adventure game. I never considered myself a game developer.
Yeah.
But now looking back, that's when I started. That's when I started making a game. And I think a lot of folks think that, oh, I'm not working on a AAA game, or oh, I'm not working on this like this cool like big indie game or something.
Yeah.
Even if you're learning game development, if this is something that you're interested in, it's something that you want to do, and it's something that you're actively practicing, you're a game developer. And for me, and that means also like, are you a solo indie dev? Are you someone who's making art for video games? Are you a musician? You're making video game music? Like if you're, I know some people who do a lot of amazing work within the game development ecosystem that don't consider themselves like game developers because they aren't programmers. And so really it's kind of like, if you're working on contributing to games, no matter the level, you did it. Congratulations. Like you're here.
Right. What's funny is that the opposite sentiment exists where, as a developer, I'm like, well, I'm not good with art. I'm good with like making systems, and I can make a badass inventory in code. Like it'll live in memory. It just won't look very cool. So yeah, it's like both those sentiments exist where you have artists who are like, oh, I don't know how to program, so I can't be a game developer. And then, obviously the other camp where, I'm a programmer, but I can't make anything look pretty.
But that's like the best thing about game development. It's like then the two parties, like, right, like with our powers combined, like we make a video game, and I think that's what I love about game development. I get to work like in my experience, like with so many brilliant, talented folks who do things that I could never do, and that's exciting. Like I learned so much from them. Together we can create cool projects even better than any one of us could make individually. And so I love that collaborative aspect.
Yeah, definitely. The collaborative aspect is great. And, I get a lot of questions too about, oh, how do I get into game development? Do I need to have a CS degree, or do I need to come up with a portfolio? And obviously, there's many ways, there's many paths to becoming a game developer, and whatever that even means, whether you work for a studio or you're someone who's produced your own indie game. But I think across the board, I'd say one, develop, make things, make prototypes, that like get your hands dirty. And two, share it. Share your prototypes, get people to play what you're working on, even if it's something as simple as, you have a scene with some objects and you're testing out your inventory and you just want to test that. You can go and pick up the objects. Just let people play that, build it, put it on itch. And that's important.
It's so important. And I compare it to like drawing or playing an instrument. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get good if you don't practice, right? And it takes regular practice.
Yeah.
And so, but you'll find that in that practice, you'll leave with pieces of kind of game development stuff that then you could add to your portfolio, or that you can share with folks, or maybe you can make something, really fun and then share that on social media or on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways that that you can use that practice time to your advantage, right? So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And definitely another thing is, I joke about the prototype thing, but like it can be a little detrimental to only do prototypes. Like I always recommend, like, just get to the end of job. Even if the end of job is like, I have a menu, you hit start and you're in this one scene where all you can do is this one thing and then you can exit, because it's important to see the whole cycle, and then being able to figure out a way to package that and give that to someone and then react to their feedback. All those things you don't get when you just... And this is something that I think probably 80% of all game developers live in this bubble where you just like hack away at a prototype and then go to the next one, and you do that rinse and repeat.
Yep. I think that it's interesting because to me, I actually gave myself rules about this. So I will work on a prototype. I'll give myself 2 weeks, and I won't work on it until I guess this might be odd, but I tell myself until I see the screenshot in my head. And so if I can't like really see it like working or something achievable, like in 2 weeks, I might save it or like think about it more, or like maybe review the design idea a bit. But I feel like kind of like my best, most polished things are very small focused projects. And this is like me working on my own, right? Like on projects for fun. But I, having that parameter really helped, and learn, and like you said, it's so important to experience the whole process, right? Like I'm okay with development and I'm okay with art, but I'm really bad at like audio, and like not as much as like maybe like the game design part. And so, and I have like really awesome friends who help me with that. And so, but I have to practice those as well, and like, learn that kind of like whole system, and giving myself those parameters really helps.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that in my role currently as an evangelist, I work on so many different demos and examples, like highlighting Unity features, that it actually scratches a lot of that prototyping itch for me.
Yeah.
So now I actually get to focus on the games that I really want to make and work on long term. And so I have 2 of them, and one of them is this kind of like mobile, very aesthetic design based pinball game.
Nice.
And then I'm making a kind of my own point and click adventure game that's really a prototype for maybe a VR game that I want to work on in the future.
Oh my gosh.
But
I have the exact same project that I'm working on. That's awesome. With the exact same like steps. Like first I'll do the point and click, and then maybe I'll port it to VR, or maybe make it in a way that it can be played on VR.
It's like before I want to build that like whole entire VR like world and everything, I want to test and make sure the idea works, right? And I want to I want to like get that game feel right, and I'm excited about this idea. So it'll be cool to see where it ends up. But saving time first and doing that in 2D will help.
Yeah, definitely. It's like multiplayer games too. Although generally with multiplayer games, you probably want to start out with multiplayer in mind, because it almost feels like it's way harder to port a single player to multiplayer game.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's hard. And it's weird saying, because I work with folks on multiplayer like content and demos. And I haven't done it myself, like as a solo dev, because it's, I think that I used to think that like, oh, like all this like setup and everything, but I've been working with a lot of different technologies like
Mm.
VVox, which actually helped me realize that it's actually not too intense to get a kind of like multiplayer game
Yeah.
set up, and it's it's a very interesting, exciting time if you're interested in making
Yeah,
multiplayer
definitely.
games.
Now you brought up VVox. I'm curious because I've actually been exploring that myself. So for those who don't know on the chat, VVox is. Can you explain like what's the history behind Unity and VVox? Like there was an acquisition there.
Yes, so VVox is a game communication service,
Mm,
basically voice and chat for video games. And that service was acquired by Unity a little over a year ago, I
mm,
think. And so it's really um, it's a really amazing service. And I say that because even though we acquired it a year ago, it's been around since 2005.
mm.
So the
Wow.
VVox crew, and they're amazing folks. I believe some of them are in the chat right now.
Mm.
They have had all these years and all this experience literally making like the most optimized, perfect voice comms tool for games. And it really shows. And it's a really kind of awesome piece of tech that can really help developers of all backgrounds easily implement voice and text chat into their games.
Yeah. Yeah, I played around with it, and I put a little demo together recently, or prototype, I should say. And what I liked about it is, at first I thought it was like a multiplayer platform, and I was like, oh man, another multiplayer platform. Like there's a million of them, and they're all so complicated. But what I like about it is it's just voice comms and chat, and you can choose which one you want to use. So the first thing that I even created was just a chat, or yeah, like a text chat, like little applet,
Yep.
and what I liked about it is like it's completely separate from the concept of multiplayer. It's just you can chat with people, so you can have that multiplayer element. And I'm sure most people who use it probably would. But like my mind was spinning, like, what if I had a single player game and I had a section where you could like log into the chat, and now you're like you've brought Discord, you've brought your community into your game. And for
Yep.
me, that was super exciting to think about.
It's really exciting the different ways that you can implement VVox, and like we share some like sample examples that I'll mention later. But what we often say is that these are just examples, and there's lots of different ways that you can implement it, and a lot of that is also, I think, really important because adding communication to your games, whether it's text or chat, really helps folks be way more engaged into your game than they would be normally. And
Yeah.
VBox actually like has a lot of cool data about this that I've read, and it's fascinating. But it's like you said, like even if it's like a single player game and implementing like a chat on the side or something, like it's
Yeah.
kind of like you become more invested, you become part of that community, and it makes everything so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah, it's really easy to use too. I was also thinking for that point and click adventure situation, it's perfect for VR because I think like if two technologies don't sound, there's no two technologies that sound scarier to me than multiplayer and VR. Like talk about like I can't even wrap my mind around what that looks like in code and in practice. But yeah, but then it's like you can make a game and you can actually introduce pseudo multiplayer mechanics just by using something like VVox, just to have the voice and the yeah, just the voice chat. And it's like almost like you don't have to track player position, you don't have to track state of the game. It's just like, hey, look, we're gonna start up a chat session, voice chat session, and now you have this engagement and interactivity that
Yep,
is kind of light, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
it
I,
is.
I
Yep.
like it.
And it's one thing I really like about VVox is that there are different ways that you can implement it. So, like for example, in this VR setup, there VVox basically has different channels,
Mhm.
and you can either have 2D or 3D channels. So,
Mm.
kind of example that you're sharing now, where it's like maybe a team chat type situation, where you just want to like chat with like your group of friends, or maybe like the small group of folks that you're playing with.
Right.
You can use a 2D channel. If you're playing a game that's in a 3D world, you can use 3D positional audio channels, which
Yeah.
I find so much fun. And so I could be, running around and I could hear like someone like whispering far away, and then I go and I turn around and I run over
Creepy.
there, and and then we can actually like talk to each other. And so it's really cool.
Yeah, not to mention like now with like this COVID thing going on, party games are such a big deal. It'd be great
Yep.
for a party game. Like, I think that'd be awesome.
I agree. I think like you said, this time more than ever, we're all looking for ways to connect and talk to each other. And probably how many of
Yeah.
us here have been like doing our hangouts with friends, like in Animal Crossing. Like, it's a lot of us are kind of like living that like socialization life through video games. And so I'm excited to see kind of what experiences are going to come out now that we all have this new perspective on how we interact.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see how V Vox is going to power a lot of those.
Yeah. I guess my only question would be, is it affordable? Because that's the one thing I haven't really explored. Like I made a demo, but is it going to break the bank?
Nope. And I think that's what's exciting. I really respect and like really appreciate V Vox as a service, given how long it's been in development, and what a quality piece of a service it is. It's actually free for indie developers and pretty much the rule of thumb is that up until your game has 5,000 peak concurrent users in the chat, or using the communication system, then it's free.
Oh.
And so and I like to think that as an indie or as a starting or growing game developer, if you have 5,000 people using your in-game communications at the same time, you're in a good place.
Yeah, it's like a
and
good
so at that
problem
point,
to have.
exactly, that's a good problem to have. And then you reach out to the V Vox team, and then they work out a plan that suits your game's needs, and they have a lot of interesting kind of flexibility, and they'll work with you to figure out a plan.
Cool. So right now it comes in the form. What is a plugin? I'm trying to remember how I even implemented it.
So all you have to do is go to the V Vox developer portal. So that's developer.vvox.com. And you go and download the SDK, and then you just implement that into your Unity game or even Unreal game. So it supports both.
If anyone's interested, I'll drop a link in the chat. Cool. So I like it. So yeah, I guess on the topic of I guess Unity features, would you call this a Unity feature, VVox, or like an integration? Is it going to be integrated more tightly? Sorry, my cat is actually walking on my desk here. Oh my gosh.
Kitty.
Everyone, this is Boots. Say hi, Boots.
Hi, Boots.
Now get off of my desk.
My brain is now like all like cats. What was the question?
Yeah.
Oh, so, the feature integration.
Yeah, is it considered a Unity feature or more of an integration?
I think we definitely consider it like specifically a service.
Okay,
it's a service Unity provides, and you can implement it into your project. But yeah, service would be the word, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think the way that it works too is interesting, because one thing I was wondering is how do they handle really big spikes in players? Because I think we've been seeing that. I mean, we've always seen that a lot, right? And goodness knows how many times we've heard of a big online game and then servers are down.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to log in day one, it's like it's not happening. I was really fascinated with the back end of VVox because how it works is that they have thousands of bare metal servers like all over the world. And there are so many players using VVox. And whenever there's a spike in players, they actually like kind of augment the service with bursts into the cloud to really kind of make sure that everything stays stable and working, even though like you may have a big surge in players.
Right.
Like, and so I know folks are like, oh, if I have like a free plan and like there's a big spike, like, what happens? Like, is it, they take care of all that infrastructure and concerns and such for you. Like really the only thing you have to do as a developer is implement the SDK, and then you don't really have to worry about it again.
Yeah.
So I think that's exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, no, you're about to make me geek out on distributed systems. I'm all about that. I'm all about that sort of thing. It's something that I deal with on my day job, which sadly is not game development. But yeah, like hearing about that and understanding the implications of distributed systems and uptime. I mean, at my day job, I work in security and compliance. So our software has to be active like 24/7, 365.
You know how it is. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, it's such a pain. It's such a hard challenge. But if they've been doing it for as long as they've been doing it, I'm sure they've got that thing, locked down. So
Yep.
Cool.
I think and yeah, and I think the fun part about VVox is that so many of us use it. And I think folks maybe don't even know sometimes, but pretty much I bet everyone in the chat has probably played a game that has VVox, I think.
Ooh.
So let's see. Fortnite, Blizzard, or Blizzard games like Overwatch.
That's pretty cool.
Wargaming games. Like so many companies use it. It's so Nexon, the PUBG uses VVox. It's even Second Life,
Yeah.
right? It's everywhere, and so it's so if you've used in-game chat
Second Life. I haven't
communications
heard
before,
that. I haven't
right?
heard that game in a long time. It's funny.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, when I first got into game development a couple years ago, or it was like 6 years ago. I wish it was just a couple years ago, but it's been like 6 years now. Time flies. It's interesting to learn how studios and how games are made. Like my perception was always that, a game studio makes a game and they make everything from scratch and then they put it out. But it's like, no, all these big name games, they're using software and tools that everyone else is using, and it makes sense why they would, because why would you want to create a proprietary chat system in-house when you could just outsource it to a company who makes it their specialty?
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's why so many kind of major companies use VVox, and why I'm personally very excited about it for indies, because making your own voice and chat communication system, especially one that is robust and flexible, is very difficult, and takes a lot of time. And you can just now implement it. Like, you can use a service like VVox, and that's all taken care of for you. And like I mentioned before, it's not just the infrastructure concerns you have to worry about. It's things like security and like moderation and all these other things. And it's a lot, especially for smaller developer teams. And so they take care of that, for you.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I alone was able to make a little chat client in like the matter of like 2 days. So it was pretty
Nice.
cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's kind of what we tell folks in general is that, it really just takes a couple of days to implement the SDK. It's really accessible. And if it's your first time trying to do this, if you go into the developer portal and you make an account, you can get access to a Unity sample project in the documentation. If you've been a Unity developer for a while, you actually may recognize it. It's the Unity's tank sample, but it's actually using VVox for communication. So it actually has several different examples of how you could set up things like text chat, positional audio, 2D audio. It shows the different ways that you can set up and integrate channels. I think if there's one thing I recommend to anyone who wants to get started with VVox, if you download that sample project, in there's a script that's called VVox Voice Manager. It's pretty much a perfect template of all the main core things that you would want to do with VVox.
Yeah.
And you can actually just copy that script and use it in any of your projects. So you don't even have to rewrite everything from scratch. It's just totally available for you to use and implement.
I feel like an idiot because I literally implemented
Did
a
you write
class
it
called VVox Manager, and now I want to VVox Manager, and now I want to compare it to that script. I didn't even know that was there.
Yep, that's why I tell folks, because it's literally, it's so extensive, it's so useful. When I found it, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So there you go, folks. That's my tip for y'all.
Now I want to compare it, because I want to see if what I thought a VVox Manager looks like is what I guess VVox thought it should look like. To be honest, if I knew it was there, I probably would have done it anyway because I'm a masochist. But
and the way you do it is the way that you really learn and get to the meat of it, and then get to give it the flexibility that you want to give it, right? So
yeah. Yeah, I totally over-engineered it too. Like my VVox Manager implemented an interface called Communication Manager, and I just added all this complexity that didn't need to be there. So now I'm going to go to that tank project and grab that file.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. And honestly, apart from the technology, like we said, it's the engagement. And that's one thing that I've been struggling with, because it's so cool to think, and it's actually a meme on this channel. everyone always asks, "Oh, how do I make an MMO?" Because like for a while I would do
It's the
videos on
first
it.
game attempt.
Yeah, for a while I would do videos on like MMOs and stuff like that because I just grew up playing MMOs. That was just the kind of game
Yeah.
I liked, and so it's always been like my white whale to be able to find some way to have that engagement, like have my cake and eat it too. Because there's just no way I'm gonna make an MMO ever. I've accepted that, but at the same time, I love the notion of adding that engagement to my game. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think, and I kind of like grew up the same way-ish. And it's funny because at first I was a bit scared of using like voice chat and stuff. Because I mean, I think things are way better now, but like
yeah.
early-ish, mid 2000s voice chat in games, if you were a girl, was kind of harsh.
Oh gosh, I
And
can
so,
imagine. Yeah.
and like I used to play a lot of TF2 back in the day, and like heavens forbid I jumped on the wrong server, and it's
Oh.
and so and then I actually stopped using voice chats for a while,
Mm,
but I think there's been so much cool advancements happening that make your communities better. And I know that VVox is actually working on a bunch of these as well. But and I kind of mentioned like moderation stuff before, but like
yeah.
not only like does it enable like kind of like voice and chat and such, but it also uh, gives you a bunch of moderation options
Mm,
for muting and banning folks. One thing that's also happening is um, there's a lot of like accessibility and additional kind of like toxicity updates in the works for VBox that I'm
wow.
very excited about, like using machine learning to help combat toxicity. There's
Dude, that's awesome.
yeah, I'm very excited about this. And there was actually a lot of like very interesting information that I forget the game that shared it, but basically the kind of common assumption is that a lot of and the reason why I want to mention I'm talking about like toxicity and such in voice chat and text communications is that it happens to everybody, and
Mhm.
it really decreases player engagement. And so
Yeah.
you want your players to be happy and enjoying their time.
Yeah.
And it was something like there was a study that showed like almost like 23% of online gamers change the way they communicate because of harassment or like negativity that they received through their like online games through
Wow.
communication systems. And the the game that did this research basically found out that it's not that like the really like toxic players are really 1% of the player base and only account for 5% of
Mm,
all abuse in this game,
yeah.
where the rest of the 95% of the abuse came from was just regular people that really weren't necessarily toxic, but maybe they had a really bad day,
Yeah.
or maybe they had like some like something that great happened, and they were kind of expressing like that anger and frustration through the game.
Yeah.
They actually implemented a bunch of positive reinforcement loops when they detected player toxicity, and as almost like reminders and encouraging good collaboration and good communication, and that reduced negative online interactions
Yeah.
by so much. And so, and the VVox crew has been doing work and research into this in that regard, and they're also doing a lot for accessibility as well, like now having spoken word translate to text,
Oh, that's cool.
so that folks can actually read what the other players are saying instead of just listening. And there's also now like I'm gonna get the name wrong because I don't remember like what the full law is called, like the CVAA, but
Mm,
it's like the Communications Video Requirement Act of I think 2010.
mm,
And so that's a requirement for digital mediums in particular that provide communication services. It's now like a federal like FCC law that you have to be compliant with some accessibility requirements.
wow.
And so they're actually working on having those be supported and implemented into the VVAX communication system, so you don't have to worry about it.
Another reason not to do it yourself.
Yeah.
There's just so many
There's so
things. You
much.
think I'm just going to add voice chat to my game, but then it's like, oh, you have to follow all these rules, which are rightly so. But it's like,
Yeah.
there's just no way. Like, there's no way any small development shop could do it. Even large AAA studios, I'm sure, would have a hard time getting that to market. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, the toxicity features and the machine learning, like how meta. And again, it's like you think I'm just going to add voice chat to my game, but that could literally be detrimental to the player experience. And you just never. I mean, I'm sure some people do, but you just wouldn't think. You're so innocent to think, oh, I just add game voice chat. How great would that be? The players can talk to each other, but it could
Yep.
end up screwing up the whole thing.
I think that it's really interesting to see how big emotes have gotten in that respect. And the
My
the
cat's here.
cat
He's
is
a
so
little bit
cute.
off camera.
No, it's adorable. My dog is here like behind me, just like waiting like for me to pet him. I feel really bad. But yeah, no, it's interesting how they've implemented things like emotes and
Mhm.
for positive player experience. I think a great example of this is also Hearthstone. You can't talk in Hearthstone, but you can use those like preset phrases, right? And like communicate,
Yeah.
and like you can even like be angry if you want to, but all you could say is like sorry or whatever. It's not like it's really interesting, and I think it's really important to make sure your players have that positive experience, because now we're also reliant on digital communities. And I think about this a lot because even though like Unity is not a video game per se, I kind of approach the Unity developer community in the same way. It's I love communities and I love what they're capable of when they're really excited and inspired. And they're not going to be excited or inspired if they're not having a great time.
Yeah.
And so, really taking care of your communities, whether that's in your wherever you're communicating, like Discord or Overtone, or if you're on on social media, or if you're on YouTube, like wherever those communities happen, enabling and fostering that positive communication is really important.
Yeah. That's something that I've learned, in my YouTube journey. I got into this truly selfishly. I really wanted to hold myself accountable, and learn new things. And I figured, well, I've got some video production experience. I'll start a YouTube channel and I will use like a weekly video as my own little accountability vehicle to produce, to learn something and then teach someone about it, and put it out on my YouTube channel. But turns out I've got a pretty good sized community now, and they're all
Yeah.
awesome. Like I love them all. Like I'm on Discord. We've got a big Discord presence. These live streams are great. They're all here, and I just think like that is so important to this day and age, to games being successful. And what is success? Obviously, you want to get sales and you want people to play, but I think truly success is being able to produce your vision in your art in game form, and then have
Yep.
people and enjoy it and engage in it. And a lot of times that engagement is that community interaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
1000%.
So
Yeah.
different, when they released Ocarina of Time, I'm sure they weren't even thinking about that at all. Although a
I
big
think
community of speedrunners has come out around that.
absolutely. I think it's I think it's funny because the way I used to find community, I guess back in the day, were game facts. Like I don't know if you remember that, or
Totally.
like
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
so I'm like that forums and such, and like IRC, and the way it's evolved now has been really incredible. And I think even like find like it's not just even for the games anymore. It's like you're finding your friends that way. You're finding your
Totally.
colleagues that way in your community. How many of us here probably have like met and made really good friends over voice chat or text chat
Yeah.
in a game like WoW, or in a game like Overwatch?
Yeah.
It's really really important. It's not just a like, oh, players can talk. It's like really a whole social experience.
Yeah. I never imagined I'd have so many friends that I never met in real life, and some haven't ever really seen. Yeah, so it's weird times or cool times we're living in.
It is, and like it's so many for me as well. And like I grew up in Puerto Rico, and so I was like I couldn't go to like a lot of like the at the time the like big gaming events in the U.S. and such like that, and
Yeah.
and really like having these online games, these virtual communication experiences, and social media and such like that is like really what helped me stay connected with folks
Yeah.
like all over the world. And it's the fun part, I think, of becoming a Unity evangelist, and back when we did a bunch of travel, is that I got to actually see these online friends in the real world. I could be like, hey, I'm in your country, like, oh my god. And it's like, it's so fun when you get to see those online friends in
Yeah.
person finally after so many years.
Yeah. And I think it's possible because now, with things like VVox, it's just becoming so trivial to add those features to your games, and for
Mhm.
games to be produced with those, mechanics. And it's a good thing that it's trivial. It really shouldn't be difficult to add that. It should be something that almost becomes an expectation, to
Yep.
some degree. Obviously there'll always be single player games, and there are people who just don't. That maybe that's just not what the experience of the game is, in essence.
Hmm.
But I think more and more we'll see games actually sprout up, maybe even franchises where it's like you have this community around it, and you can foster that community without ever having them leave the game.
Yep.
So that's really cool.
Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah, I remember thinking back to my World of Warcraft days. It's been, I say like I always say I spent way too many hours in World of Warcraft, but like I had so many friends in World of Warcraft. I was being social. I was
Oh
doing
yeah.
things. That's
Yep.
just being a kid. And not even I did it well into my adult years. So I was just being a person, going on, hanging out with people, and instead of going to a bar or watching a football game, we were raiding a dungeon.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's how a lot of us are kind of doing it now, right? It's for me, like a lot of those games, like I mean, like TF2 and Overwatch and stuff, like those were like, and I think now it's Animal Crossing. I maybe have
Yeah, totally.
way too many hours spent in Animal Crossing that I think is pretty reasonable. But it's just that's just where you hang out now,
Yeah.
and it's the I don't know. It's like you were saying, like going out to the bars and like such like that, and like I think it's I'm a more introverted person for sure,
Totally.
and
Me
so
too.
and like it's like I get that kind of like social interaction and communication without having to expend all that uh
Yes. All
introvert or extrovert
the.
energy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was just thinking about that last night. I was out with some friends, and it just got to a point where I was just like, oh, I'm tired, and I'm just like tired of smiling and talking, and I love these people. Like but it's just in, you understand, it's in our nature just to. I need to
Yep.
go away now, and I need to like be at home, and
Yep.
yeah. So, but yeah, online you have the option to just end the conversation and walk away, and it's much easier for folks
Yep.
like
For
us.
sure.
So introverts. My wife is a huge extrovert too. So, well, she's become more of an introvert now. She's more of a homebody, as she likes to put it. But it's interesting to see like some people just get their energy from just being out and talking to people, and they're this COVID thing and working from home. A lot of them, like I have coworkers, it's killing them because they're just like, I need to go
Yep.
talk to someone. But now they're
Yep.
even understanding that, oh, I'm gonna have a happy hour on Zoom, or I'm gonna play Jackbox games, with
Yep.
friends. Like you can do those things. You don't have to be physically present to do that.
Yep. Yeah, it was like I was saying before, I wasn't sure how any of this was gonna go before, but it's like everyone's so quickly adopted to like the Zoom life and playing those games. And I went to an online trivia night last Friday, and it
Nice.
was like 50 of us like in this call, and like it's so much fun, and it yeah, it's great.
I have a friend who does D&D sessions over Zoom, which it's so funny.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like those things. Like I never thought about this before. Like I was telling you earlier that I recently moved from Miami to Atlanta, and like all of our friends are in Miami, and we always say, "Oh yeah, next time we're in town, I want to hang out." Well, then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden we're having happy hours with them, and we're thinking like, why didn't we just do this before? Like we could have had these happy hours. Like why did it take a pandemic for everyone to realize like if we just download Zoom, we can all just hang out for a little bit on a Friday night?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's also interesting how like we've all I think come to really value and prioritize the people in our lives like throughout this
Yes.
whole quarantine. And because I think like the reason why it didn't happen was like a lot of us, I'm sure especially a lot of us here in the chat, we're all running around. We have games to play, we have games to make, like business is happening, like things, it all these things happen. And I think it's sad, like not sad, but I think the reality is that like it took a pandemic for us to be like, hold up, the social time, the people time is also really important.
Yeah,
And
super important.
I'm actually excited for what this means for in-person events once it's safe to resume again. I think we're gonna really appreciate those a lot more,
Yeah,
and not
definitely.
take them for granted.
Definitely. Yeah, I think back to my time at Unite LA 2018. And definitely there were times during that where I was like, I just want to go back to my hotel room and like turn off, and it's like 6 o'clock. It's like, no, I'm here. I should go out and really embrace that I'm here with these people that I'm never gonna, some that I might never see again, some that I would only see in the context of a situation like that. So I definitely, yeah,
Absolutely.
see
And
what I
that was
took
so
for
much
granted.
fun, LA. Like that's where
Dude,
we
so
met for the
fun.
first time. And
Yeah,
so like that dinner where we had like all the other Unity folks and YouTubers and such, like that was a blast.
that
Like
was super
so
fun.
thank you for staying out. Like as an introvert, I recognize that. It was end of the day, you were still there, but
Yeah.
we got to meet and that was awesome. So I'm glad for that.
Yeah, I'm glad for that too. That was a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool folks, including yourself. I'm trying to
Yeah.
think of. I don't want to name drop because I don't want to miss anyone. But yeah, definitely a lot of great people. That was so fun. I can't
It
wait.
was.
I can't wait for the next one.
Likewise.
I'm
It's
optimistic. There will be another one.
There will be another one for
Yes.
sure. In the meantime, we're doing online ones and we're looking to figure out the best way to kind of recreate that experience as best as we can. But I'm excited to get back on the road when it's when it's safe and ready.
Do you have a schedule for upcoming digital events that we could share and with the chat and see if
I would say my online schedule would be probably could check. Hmm. I don't think I do. It's kind of really like I'll post a lot of things like really the Unity YouTube channel
gotcha,
is where you're going
gotcha.
to see all of our online stuff. So we also have our Unite Now webpage on the Unity
Mm,
website where we're posting all of and not just myself, but the whole team's kind of work and talks. And so Unite Now will be like a good place to get those updates. Also, unity3d.com/events for those kind of more closer events that we have, like Unity Developer Day, like the really like community focused ones, versus like kind of like a YouTube live stream or video that you watch.
yeah,
Um, you can find those. Those will get posted on unity3d.com/events. I know that now we're currently in preps for kind of like several summer conferences that are coming up, like
nice.
GDC Online, SIGGRAPH, and others. And so that's what's in the pipeline. I'm trying to think of what else I have. I'm in the process of like moving, so my brain has been like getting
Of
ready for
course.
that. So, but the it's yeah, and by far we'll always like myself and all the other evangelists, and you could search like Unity Evangelist on Twitter or on us on social media, and you'll see all of us posting about all the different events that we're doing.
Cool.
There's probably 10 of us now all over the world. And so no matter where you are in the world, you can find your local evangelist. Also, we actually have a page. I think it's I'm gonna mess up the URL, but if you if you, it's I think it's like unity3d.com/evangelist. But if you go to the community page at the top of the Unity website, there's an evangelist tab. You can meet all the fellow evangelists like myself. You could see who's in your region. You can talk to who's doing things in your area. You could see the online events that they're doing. We do a lot of online user groups. So, and for folks who aren't familiar with the Unity user groups, these are kind of local, by city developer collectives of Unity creators who just are hanging out and learning about Unity together, sharing what they're doing. We're doing a bunch of those online now. So we are um, doing these in our region. So like you might see me post about doing one, let's say for the Americas. I do a lot of events for Latin America as well. So you may see
Nice.
me in events like there. Or maybe you're over in Europe, and then you could probably follow our evangelists like Chiro, Amel, or Chema there, and see what they're up to on that side of the world. It's and we have the whole like kind of like crew in Japan and Asia as well, and so there's a lot going on in your local region. So be sure to find us for updates on that.
Cool. Yeah, I actually found the page. I dropped it in the chat.
Yeah,
Very
you're the real
neat.
MVP.
Yeah, look, I'm excited because I'm curious about these digital events. I want to come. So everyone's having all this fun.
Absolutely, and also we have the Unity Discord, the official
Mm.
Discord channel. So when there's events not happening, you can hang out with us there. I think my kind of favorite, it's not really a hangout, but I think that I'm finding it to be one now. I love hashtag Unity Tips Tuesday and then
Oh
hashtag
yeah,
Made with Unity Friday. So that's like our two specific days for the community to share either their tips or what they're working on Twitter. And really, that's kind of like the main way I think I'm socializing now.
yeah.
It's but I think no matter what folks prefer, there's kind of like a lot of options out there if you want to like interact and be more involved in the Unity community, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, and this is something we're learning now, is involved on your own terms. Like
Yes.
if you want to do it digitally, you can do it. If you're good with Discord, you can go on Discord, and there's tons of options there. Yeah, I really like the hashtags. I'm terrible with Twitter. I'm struggling to. I'm still struggling to understand it, but the more I get involved, like I really do. Like I have those hashtags. I always search for those, see what's going on. Yeah, it is kind of like a community in its own right. Because you'll see the
It
same
is.
people like posting progress on their previous tags. It's pretty cool.
I think that's the best part. I think
Yeah.
I was really bad at Twitter as well. And I think I started really just like kind of like forcing myself to get into it maybe like 6 years ago ish. But what's really exciting, and I was actually just talking to somebody about this. I remember a bunch of my friends or like folks that I've like met through Twitter. They were just starting their games and posting like their very like programmer art prototypes and such. Now, like 5 years later, they're shipping their games.
That's
Like it,
awesome.
like their Kickstarter games, like they're out, they're in the world. You know, like I think one of my favorite parts of being a game developer is watching my colleagues and my fellow game devs out there in the world find that success,
Yeah.
release their game. It's like watching
Yeah.
like a hero movie where it's like, oh my god, like I know how hard you worked on this. Like I remember how hard this thing was for you, and like you did it. Or like, oh my god, like the art came out amazing. Like
Yeah.
it's I that's what keeps me going, and that's what keeps me really excited. And I think even at like Unity at developer events,
Mm.
we have kids come
Yeah.
to these events. Also, these kids are like really amazing game developers and make me feel really bad. Like wow, when I was your age, I think I only played video games and nothing else. Like you're an accomplished developer at
Creating
12.
things.
What? And I see them like later on and like see and their progress in the development career and
Yeah.
to see how folks are growing. And it's I love that. That's my favorite part. I get so much energy from that, and it's yeah.
Yeah.
I would just gush forever on like how excited and proud I am of everyone, and I think one of my favorites too is that I know someone who went to one of our beginner Unity programmer events
Mhm.
a couple years back, and then I I see them now, and I spoke to one recently. I'm like, "How's life?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm in a development studio. I'm leading it
Wow,
now.
that's
Like we
awesome.
landed a big contract and whatever." I'm like, "I remember when you didn't even know how to develop." And to me, I think that's also a great sign of like how accessible game development is becoming.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love working for Unity and why I'm excited about the things I do is that it's and we were kind of like talking about this earlier, like, you know, it it's way easier to get into things. And I think that it's a really exciting time to really um, make a game and share that with other people because there's a
Yeah.
lot of kind of like tools and features and stuff with Unity or any other game engine that
Mhm.
you may work with that make doing these kinds of like creating these kinds of experiences a lot easier. So,
Yeah. Yeah. The barrier to entry is like so low now.
yep.
And what's also great is that now you have the community, and all you have to do is just get queued into one community, whether it be a Discord or a subreddit or you're on Twitter, and put yourself out there, and eventually you'll be able to collaborate. And I think that seems to be the thing that I notice is, especially in my community, everyone's always collaborating, answering each other's questions, helping each other out, and I think on top of the tools being free and accessible, and so accessible from the standpoint of like you can download it on your computer and you're good to go, but also accessible from the point of ease of use. You
Mhm.
also have the community who's there to help you out, and I think it's great. It's a definitely it's way different than it was when we were kids. So I always think the same thing when I see kids like making games. I'm like, oh my gosh, man! Like I was playing Ocarina of Time. I wasn't thinking about making it. But you know, we didn't. To be fair, we didn't have those tools accessible to us. But now we do, and I think
Yep.
two things. It's never too late to start, and you know, I think I'm excited for the younger generation.
I really am as well, and I think I think you have a lot of folks in your community who are learning and
Hmm.
going on that journey because of you, and that's why I respect the work that you do so much because I think that you actually really empower a lot of those people, and I think that's like kind of really exciting. And I think for folks like that in the chat, that if you're just getting into this and maybe that you're you're stressed about how your journey's going, or
Mm,
you're not sure where you're at in the development process, like you'd be really surprised what you can accomplish in a year
yeah.
or 2 years.
Oh yeah.
I work as a Unity developer now at Unity. I didn't start my career as a Unity developer. I started my career as an artist for games, and so
Hmm.
like I transitioned over, and it took some time, but it happens, and so it's really you. I think I said before, like you just be really genuinely surprised
Yeah.
about what you can achieve. And especially thanks to kind of like content like yours, so many resources and tutorials available online, so many different kind of like templates available that you can get, let's say like from the Unity Asset
Oh
Store.
yeah.
Like I don't know if folks have seen the Learn tab in the Unity Hub, but finding a bunch of demos there that you can do, you can modify or you can practice with. There's so many ways that you can really like level up your skills really quickly. So
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, and what you said about the whole content creation, it's funny. I focus on software development because I'm just a software developer by trade, and so I just sort of work from that end. But I'm not good at animating or 3D or lighting. I'm always watching Unity tutorials. I watch. I mean, again, I don't want to name drop because I don't want to miss any, say anyone and not say someone. But I watch so many YouTubers who are creating Unity content that fill in the gaps of the things that I don't know, and I feel like I
Yep.
know so little. Like I just do programming. There's like I went on this recent stint into animations. There's a series of videos on like doing using the animation controller with Mixamo models, and like
Yep.
what a blast! I love that.
It's so much fun, and it's and there's so many different creators using Unity too that are showing how to use these in different ways. Like I love watching YouTubers and who make Unity content like based on film and creating like
Yeah.
film like experiences. And it's so interesting to hear like somebody who works in like cinematography and video
Mhm.
talk about like Unity post processing and how they apply. And I'm like, I learned so much that like from a world I never even considered for my own games, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like what you're saying, like it's if I don't know the answer, like I'm watching a YouTuber who does, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
watching a community person who does, and I always appreciate that knowledge share. And I think when we share that knowledge, right, like then we can all grow together, and that's what makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. The community is just so great for that. And so that brings me back in my mind to what we were talking about earlier, and like the recommendation to just finish things, get things done, don't prototype,
Yep.
because on your journey from A to B, finishing some vision you have, you come across so many things that you never would have expected. Like you may have an idea for instance, I have this little game that I keep calling the sheep game. My community will know about it, and it's this little sheep that hops around, and I was trying to figure out how to make this sheep hop, and I was playing around with the animation controller and all these things. Well, one thing led to another, and I found this video on tile maps, and I went down this journey of learning tile maps, and tile maps are awesome. And now I'm doing like I'm using the 2D extra pack to make like
Nice.
intelligent tiles, and it's like this is I never would
So
have
good.
got there if I didn't get past the prototype phase and get into like the next mechanics that I wanted to finish off. So it's definitely, yeah, it's
I
a,
think that's so true. And I think especially, and I think about it a lot because I'm actually a person who does a lot of game jams.
mm.
I am game jam obsessed, and there's a lot of like online ones happening. I've done global game jam, I think every year since like year 2, I think. So I've done like 12 or something at this point.
Right.
And I, I like those experiences because I'll get past the prototyping like part of the game jam, like of the game during the game jam,
Yeah.
and then after if I want to work on the game after the game jam is over, then I get into that mode that you're talking about where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, what can I really do to optimize this, or like, I
Yeah.
want to do this but I'm not sure where this is going. Let me look up a feature that could maybe be good for this, and then I find some kind of like great tutorial or
Mm.
resource of like, oh, I could make a really cool mechanic if I implement this. And like, it's even like small things. Like I remember I'm like, I'm making this like 2D game, pinball game that I have, and I um am it's mostly all physics based, but I'm having some kind of crazy things happen with portals and such like that. And I want like the model. And I'm like, but
That's
what's like a
awesome.
fun, like what's a good way that I can like implement this or whatever. And just even like doing that research, and I'm like, oh, like I could just add like a point effector
Yeah.
to my sprite, and like have it do like these, hook it up with some other stuff and have it do these cool crazy things. Like
Yeah.
it's you'll pick up so much little random knowledge when you're doing these things. And to me, that little random knowledge is actually like the good stuff for like building that game
Yeah.
developer experience. Like I think I learned more honestly through game jams and prototyping than I did in college. So it's I think the kind of like that's how you really learn. That's how you get your hands dirty with this stuff. So
For sure. Game jams are great. I got to be honest, I've never done a game jam, but I know, and I'm dying to do one. I always commit to it, and I get to the weekend of, and I'm like, maybe I'll do the next one.
I'm gonna drag you into a game jam now that I
Please
hear
do.
this.
I really want to do one, and I just keep putting it off. But I guess the closest thing I've ever come to a game jam is actually like signing a contract of work and saying I'm going to develop this thing for you, and it's like
Very long term game jam.
yeah, for real. Sorry, my cat's jumping up on my shelf. But yeah, that accountability that you get when you have a time crunch. For me, it was I won't get paid. But in a game jam, it's like, well, everyone's waiting for you to make this thing. You've committed to it. That's really good because a lot of times when you're prototyping things, you do have the luxury to say, I have this feature working, but maybe I can code it a little bit better. Or maybe I can, move this around. Whereas when you're doing a game jam or you're doing work, and people expect it to be done, you just have to grit your teeth and move on from it.
Yep.
And that's so, so valuable.
I think it's interesting too, because I'm really interested in developer tools and workflows. And when I don't have a time constraint on what
That's
I'm
my
working
jam.
on, I'm like, how can I extend this? What can I make a like easier workflow? Can I like automate some of this? And like before I even like actually like work on the game, like I spent way too much time on the level editor, like it's like that's my trap. So I think it's a good way to really kind of have that it's like spark or like energy to just focus on what's important,
Yes.
get something done, and then I think oftentimes folks will feel like they made way more progress in that sense, and then you can feel more comfortable like then going on to like those different elements. So
yeah, because the other type of progress is artificial. Sorry, my cat is just being a pain in the butt, dude. What are you doing up there? It's you kind of have like artificial progress where you like for one thing that I did recently was I spent all this time setting up like a pipeline to where every time I pushed a commit, it would a build machine would get the project, build the artifact, and put it into a folder. So now it's like, oh wow, every time I push a commit, I'll have a build that I can run. It's like, well, how many commits have you done? Just the one. I haven't really done anything with it. And I end up just never using it. But you feel so accomplished in that moment. And it's like, but I didn't really, the whole point was I wanted to make a game. I have an idea, but I wasted all this time procrastinating. It really is procrastinated. Just making sure my pipeline worked.
It's good in the sense of like developing those systems is also part of like that nitty gritty, get your hands dirty, kind of like learning experience, but you can't get trapped there. That's the big thing, like breaking that cycle and having a balance, I think is important.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely can be a trap. And so game jams, I'm speaking theoretically, because I've never done one, but game jams are great. I imagine from what I've heard,
they are great.
They're the same.
I will vouch for them. I've done, honestly, I'm not kidding. I've maybe done at least 30 in my career so far ish plus. And that's like not necessarily counting all the ones that I support as a Unity evangelist. Like I'm not necessarily jamming, but I will go to game jams and just help folks and like be like the Unity help desk sometimes. And so it's so exciting. It's a great energy. You make so much friends this way, so many developer friends. And it's my favorite thing. Like to me, global game jam every year is like Christmas. Like that's to me is like my favorite time of year. Like everything else in my life gets put on pause. And it's to me also game jams are like a celebration, right? It's like our time where we can come together as game developers and geek out about like making something fun and like not getting stuck in like the day-to-day of our jobs or like the long-term projects that we're working on. And so yeah.
You've sold me. You've sold me. When is the global game jam? I got to put that on my calendar.
Global Game Jam's in, I think, January. So it's January usually of every year. I'm not sure if they changed the date slightly because of COVID, but it's there's tons of game jams. Like I talk about Global Game Jam because, and I think it's going to be harder because the appeal of Global Game Jam was that it's always an in-person jam.
Oh, it is.
And it's almost, and like it's in like 100 plus countries like participating at the same time. Like it's like the Olympics of game development. Like that's why I like it. And so, but a lot of these things are going to be online based now, right? And so I also swear by jams like Ludum Dare. Itch has a bunch of really great game jams happening. There's I think there's a calendar somewhere of like, different game jams that are coming up, but online game jams are becoming more popular than ever now. And if folks are interested in joining those, like there's tons happening all the time. I know that there's a couple of like Unity community jams that are popping up on Itch and some other places. And if you're in the Unity Discord, you'll probably see like updates and news about those there as well. But those are kind of a great way to have some fun during the quarantine and meet your fellow developers and kind of like grow your skills all at the same time.
All right, I'm gonna find a calendar. I'm gonna sign up for one. Keep me accountable.
I'm gonna keep an eye out now. I'm gonna be like, I don't see you at the game jams, man. Where are you?
I'm gonna do it. A week from now, you're gonna see me like streaming live the whole game jam. Me looking miserable. Like, what have I done?
I made a mistake.
I made a huge mistake. Milk was a bad choice. Oh, cool. That's exciting. Yeah, I really need to do one. I've just been procrastinating way too long.
I think it's hard because it's like people look at it, it's like, oh, okay, I now have time off, more work. Yeah. But I think if you haven't done one, do it once. That's what I tell people. Right. Like some people, you know what? It's not for them. That's cool. But I tell everyone you have to do one game jam. And in person, I think is better. But obviously, given the circumstances, online will work. But but we now have the tools to make that a lot easier. Whether like that's like Discord or Zoom or Teams or whatever you want to use. It's a lot easier to do online game jams now. So if you tried an online one in the past and it didn't work out, I actually recommend giving it another shot now. But I think to me that's a developer bucket list experience.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. What would be on that bucket list? Doing a game jam, releasing a game.
Releasing a game will be a big one. I think for me, like my bucket list things, or at least moments in game development where I got really excited, is like get your first really positive, encouraging comment about your game from a complete stranger.
Yeah.
Having, I think, a community for your game, like you were mentioning, right? Like building that community. I don't know, what would you put on yours?
Those sound good. I mean, I think because the type of game that I'm interested in making are like story-based games. So like I've always wanted people to like find a forum thread somewhere where people are like theorizing about like the characters or like
that would
something
be amazing,
in the world, right? Like I would love that. That'd be so great.
I would actually feel amazing if there was like a conspiracy theory or something about like characters working in the game. Yeah. Okay. I have that on my bucket list as well.
That's on the bucket list. Yeah. We need to create this list and put it somewhere for everyone to add to.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, Ashley, I really appreciate you being on the stream today. This was a great conversation. I love these because in my real life, I don't really know too many game developers IRL. So having these conversations are just so much fun for me. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Likewise. And thank you for having me. I really enjoy being here. And again, like I love the work you do and how you support the community and getting to be part of that during this past hour or so we spent together is just excellent. So thank you.
Awesome. So I'd love to have you on again. And when I do have you on, we'll talk about game jams. That'll be the next thing. Well, it'll be like
that'll be my check-in. I'll be like, did you go to a game jam? And so prepare to be grilled. Yes.
I'll just be complaining to you the whole hour, like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I get sleep? I should have had.
And then my
water.
answer would be like game jams. Yeah, you did it. You had the game jam experience.
Awesome. Well, was there anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we sign off?
Well, if you want to, since we were talking about V Vox and earlier, I do want to mention, like, if you are interested, definitely check out the developer portal for V Vox. I think Charles shared that in the chat, but Yep. So it's developer.vvox.com. Grab that tanks project and the SDK if you want to work with those. If in general you have any questions about not just VVox in general, but Unity, or if you want to get in touch, you can find me on social media under the username Avashly, Avashly. I pretty much live on Twitter, so you'll probably see me there. My DMs are open, so if you're working on something cool with Unity, let me know. I want to see it. And it's just great to meet you all here in the stream, and reach out anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us as well. Appreciate the chat. Been watching it as we go. If you guys, if there's anything we didn't get to and you would like to ask questions for me or Ashley, the VOD for this video will be up. It's going to process, probably take a couple hours. And then just feel free to drop your comments on that VOD. And also, if you haven't already, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, please smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Yeah, all the likes. Well, I always try to like use some programmery terms. So I'm like, invoke the like method. It just sounds like so nerdy. Like I'm admitting
I like it though.
Invoke that like method, everyone. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Keep an eye on the channel for upcoming streams. And I guess some housekeeping, I should mention that there will not be a video this Sunday. So just stay tuned for the following week where I'll have a video on that Sunday in the normally scheduled slot. So, all right, y'all, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, wait, where's the end button? There it is. Come on, YouTube. All right, awesome, cool.